Check, check. Okay, cool. We are live. Hey, guys. Yeah, so we're a little bit earlier today, and even with being earlier, I was a little bit behind. But hey, you know what we say. It's about to be that time. Okay? I'm excited for this. We're going to get into chapter 11:15 today. I've not been spoiled, or at least I don't think I have. You know, definitely been checking like all the comments on the recent videos and stuff, and I don't feel like anything really clued me into what's going on, except for I guess one comment like told me something that's not in the chapter, but you know, like hey, whatever. But man, yeah, this you know, this week has been crazy. The break has been crazy because we put out the Luffy's lineage video, and we finally had our first theory that got 100,000 views, and we did it in 10 days, which is you know, a milestone. We're also less than 100 subscribers from 40,000 subscribers, so that's cool. It's been a while since we hit a milestone. Maybe this will be what gets us out of algorithm jail. I also started posting a little bit more on TikTok and doing shorts and stuff, and I put the first 10 minutes of the Luffy's lineage video on TikTok, and that has almost 500,000 views on TikTok, which is, I don't know, that's kind of crazy. That's wild. But hey, you know, we're just doing everything we've always been doing here. But seriously, thanks everybody that watched that video, commented on that video, engaged with that video, shared that video potentially. It's my favorite video that I've done for sure, and it seems to have resonated, and I love that. Okay, so I'm looking at chapter 1115 here. Pieces of a continent. Okay, so are we going to learn about continent pullers? Are we going to learn about the true Pangea?
You loyal.
Is this going to tie into why Oars was called the continent puller? Is this the lore that Vegapunk is going to give us? Is it going to establish how Wano is just a bunch of different things stitched together like we've been saying? Maybe. Beat Gamer said your video was also posted on Wild Anime Theories on Reddit. Oh, I did not see that. Terrible TJ, member for 14 months, said, like the stream, yes. Listen to him, everybody. So we've got Hiyori and Toko on the cover here with Yamato. Okay, they're packing Yamato a lunch as she's going to scurry around Wano, the continent, right? Okay, so here we are at page 1. Technically, page 2, right? Okay, so we are at Wano. Flag is flying pride. Flag is flying proud. Yeah. Chrissy and I are like getting over being sick, so pardon me, guys. Okay, so they're getting the signal at Wano. Vegapunk is saying, but as for why he was called a pirate, Right, so they're all wondering about Joy Boy being a pirate here. We got Momo, Kinemon, Shinobu. Shout out to Tama. They're all listening in. The Brig of Naval Base G4. Who is the commander of G4?
You loyal.
DJBJ32, member for 35 months. Said great Luffy video. Chat better watch it. W. Oh, is this Damalo Black? He's pretending to be Kid? He's now fake Kid? See, you got the facilities for that, big man. Like, he didn't have the facilities to be Luffy, but he's got the facilities to be Kid. Oh, man. Okay. All right. And look at this. Drip is there. Drip did not die. Drip is the fake Sanji. So, like, once again, Oda is out here letting us know that he is not ready to kill anybody. Like, we thought Caribou had a body on him. Like, I thought maybe Drip was dead. Nope. Drip is the new killer. But hey, maybe Kid is dead. And this is why. All right, anyway, I'm just fake Kid. I'm sorry, guys. This is like the fake Straw Hats is one of my favorite parts of the entire series. So just seeing Damalo Black being someone else, like, this is peak Oda humor here. All right. Joy Boy, I don't believe he's stronger than our captain, right, Captain Kid? Leave the guy alone. He's already dead. That's the captain we love and admire. Kid's the most generous guy around. There's no way that I'm weaker than Joy Ball. And then what is this? Wire? Is it the fake Frankie is Wire? And then that's got to be the fake Zoro, right? So the fake Zoro is Heat. All right, I'm gonna move on. I have only read from a handful of poneglyphs. Okay, so this is good. This means that Robin can still do something. That's good. This is what we want. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Oda. But what I have found there was the record of a breathtakingly vast war. Joy Boy's enemy was the world government of the present day. Are we going to find out that they did not call themselves the world government, or did they? These are things that I want to know. And then this guy is like, well, is that us? If he was a pirate, that checks out. Yep. Okay. Moving on to the next page. More accurately, it was the precursor to the world government, a provisional army. There we go. They were not the world government. Provisional army put together by 20 kingdoms known as the Alliance. Woo! Oh. See? Cobra had things to speak for. Oh, Mars is mad. He's got that hockey bloomin'. Look at him knocking all those snails out. Wow. Alright. You might say they had no other choice. So robust was Joy Boy's faction. Okay, so then we're getting a little bit of a silhouette no me action here. Joy Boy was awakened. And then these are the kings, because they have crowns on their heads. Okay. They've got spears. Huh. Interesting hair, though. Okay. Without knowing the spark that caused the war, I won't say who was right or wrong. I'll simply state that two competing ideologies came head to head. As I mentioned earlier, for its time, 900 years ago, the country of Joy Boy's birth. Please don't say the name of the country. That's for Robin. Come on. Okay, so we're seeing Zoe. So is this, we're going to see Carrot this chapter, or is this because we're talking about things in the past? Alright, we'll go to the next page. Okay, so Vegapunk doesn't know the spark that caused the war, so that means that Robin can at least discover that. He's not picking sides on who's right or wrong. We knew he wouldn't. He is chaotic neutral to begin with. Page 5. Okay, there is Carrot sporting a new, almost a puffer coat. Or puffer cape. Right. So anyway, it was a startlingly advanced civilization, good no name. The weapons that were used over the course of this 100-year conflict appear to be impossible to recreate with the latest of modern science. Okay. So maybe Joy Boy was smart Luffy. And we got Wanda there, Shishilian, and the rest of the Musketeers. Post time skip Foxy. Glorious. Look at that Dick Dastardly mustache. This is... I've been waiting for this. Alright. So he's doing it. He's got the... What nonsense is this? He's talking peanuts. Okay, so it's still got Portia and Hamburg. But it would appear that some sort of Davy backfight caused Foxy to lose the rest of his crew. Because it is only those three now. Even I, a humble genius, cannot replicate them. What's he bragging about? So who's got his crew now? That's wild. Okay. And therein lies the problem. Thank you, Oda, for showing me this glorious Foxy. And it also looks like he just was in a battle, because he has he's covered in bandages, and he's got a bandage on his cheek, he's got bandages on his chest, so someone really messed this man up. This is going to be plot relevant at some point. Like, he did a Davy back fight with the wrong person and got completely washed. Okay, next page. Stussy. Wheeze. Huh, it's me, Edison. There's Kaku still just being like, hey, I can't do anything. All right. Lower the barrier and run for safety. Okay, if anything happens to Strats before they can leave, honestly, there's not much of a point to the barrier anymore. Can't stop these guys from getting past it. Done all I can to help the Strats make their escape. I can take it from here. Alright. So then Nami is asking if Jinbei's on his way. He's still carrying Zoro. And somebody's yelling at him, either Nami or Sanji, I imagine, saying, "Was that you I heard saying something, Zoro? I'm gonna smack you after this." Okay, next page. Alright, it was Nami. More ships are gathering around the northeast coast. We don't want to land on the water only to get bombarded to bits. Okay, so now we see the giant warrior pirate ship is there. It's getting attacked, but we've got some giants that are defending it. Okay. Okay, so Oda is definitely doubling down on Stussy being good and loyal to Vegapunk, saying that being concerned that Vegapunk would be upset if she didn't help the Straw Hats get away. And Edison looks like he's on his last leg, ear, everything. Oh, that's interesting. Without Stella around anymore, who do I live for? Then we've got Kaku with a ... So that's landing on him. So that's interesting. So either does Kaku have a crush on Stussy? No. It might be a thing where Kaku is kind of thinking about, like, what do I live for? So this could be this line of dialogue landing on him could be the precursor of Kaku switching up and truly becoming a good guy and maybe standing against Lucci. Like, that would actually be kind of interesting if we saw something at some point in the story where Lucci protects the Straw Hats, Kaku protects the Straw Hats from Lucci, and we get like a Lucci versus Kaku. Like, that's a fight I would actually be interested in seeing. It would almost be like Luffy versus Zoro in a way. But meaningful? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but clearly, like, he gave a big panel at the bottom of this page for it, so something's going to come of that. Next page. Okay. Like, this, like, seeing Bonnie, like, as a giant is just ridiculous. And she is kicking Ethan, Baron, Venus, Juro in the face. Sanji's on the ground. Bonnie is looking better than Sanji here, which is crazy. Looks like Oimo is down. Okay. Oh, he just sliced through Kashi. He's going for Bonnie. Frankie comes through with the save. Okay. Alright. Did Frankie get sliced, though? Let's see. Oh, he cut off the figurehead of the ship. Bonnie switches back into a child. Bonnie says that she can't hold that future form for long. Okay, so we're putting parameters on it. Back to Vegapunk. The Void Century ... came to a close with the defeat of Joy Boy. Ancient Robot. Zoe. Ethan Baron yelling at Vegapunk, how long must you jabber on? Then, conveniently, Deus Ex Machina, Ethan Baron is just going to say, hey, I'm just going to leave Bonnie because I need to stop Vegapunk from talking. Not a big fan of that, but let's see. Sorry, that was page 9, guys. Moving on, page 10. Noxious bio response. Oh, is he gonna slice the entire island? Whoa, this is insane. All right. He's out here breaking the gears. There's no going back. But it's not before leaving vast permanent scars of war across the face of the world. We needed to see a feat like this. It's crazy. All right, we got the Cypher Pool members watching this. We've got the Seraphim taking notice. This is even making S. Hawk sweat. Okay, so they're all in their bubbles. Is this how they get out? Okay, this is interesting, actually. So we're creating new developments here. So that's page 10 and 11. We'll go to page 12. The world is made up of a series of islands. Sailing between them is difficult, and many people never experience anything but their own culture at home. Yes. Go out. See the world, everybody. Staying insulated in your bubbles is not good for the mind. Okay. Yeah, duh. Everyone knows the sea is dangerous. Okay. But this shared understanding of the world does not necessarily apply to the world of 1,000 years ago. Because a cataclysm occurred during the Void Century. Okay. So we're seeing Shmotsky Village, after we just saw like a crazy feat from Ethan Barron. That's interesting. Can't tell what island is above the Shmotsky one, but doesn't really matter. Okay. Cataclysm occurred during the Void Century, causing the world to sink once before. Okay, so we talked about this. We said, hey, this has happened before. This isn't the first time. All right, so there's still opportunities for Impel Down to have been above ground, for other places to have been above ground, for the reasoning behind, Ennie's Lobby, Long Ring Longlands, Tides, Aqua Laguna, all that kind of stuff. All right, we are currently living on the pieces of a continent that existed long ago. So are we saying that there was a Pangea and then everything broke apart and then all of the islands were once, all one landmass, which is, kind of like the real world. We kind of factored some things in like that. So we have this underwater kingdom here that's being shown to us. We got a Neptunian Sea King in the background. Maybe what we're actually looking at here is something that we have to discover. Are we going to shark submerge down here at some point? We're also seeing a whale. A lot of people want to talk about whale imagery and stuff. So, this could be like kind of an end game shot here that we're looking at. That we sail down here and then we're kind of in this corridor trench here and kind of finding stuff like, are we looking at pieces of the ancient kingdom here? Is this where the one piece is located? I don't know. There's been plenty of theories that Laugh-Tale is underwater and it's always made sense, or it's in the moon, or it's, there's got to be something, that makes it difficult to get to. So now we're back at the Revolutionary Army. We've got Dragon here, Morley, Ivankov, Belobeti, Koala, Sabo, and Humpty Dumpty. Sabo is taking this in. The world of a millennium ago, 1,000 years ago, now slumbers unseen at the bottom of the sea. Okay. Yes. Next page. Ah, Kokoyashi. You love to see it. Hi, Nojiko. Hi, Genzo. Hi, Doctor. In fact, one can assume that in the past there were a number of continents we know nothing about. We're getting into like real world stuff here as well. Okay, so this is also wild. Where are you going, Nojiko? The world's in danger. You can tell me about it later. I'm going to check on the tangerine grows. Alright. If the world were still the same as it was in the past, then the act of erasing 100 years of history would be simply unthinkable and impossible. However, it makes much more sense when you understand that the rise in sea level over that century was 200 meters. Okay. Okay. That's a lot. Okay, 200 meters. Next page. These gigantic battleships are only 60 meters long. No wonder the whole world vanished. Hey, don't get distracted by the story. Cypherpole and the Seraphim came falling down the ground level. We gotta rescue them. Back at Mock Town, these guys are still laughing at him. This man's still lying. The old coot's cracking me up. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now we're at Sakura Kingdom, formerly known as Drum. Okay, I wanted to see this. So this is fun. Excited to see what Korea's got to say about this. How does such a thing even happen? As a, save from their island with the lofty towers to protect them from, another 200 meters for sure. Korea says there's still so much to learn about the world. Okay, I was hoping for something a little more knowing, but alright. Now this is fun too. We're catching up with the other Baroque Works members. We've got Miss Golden Week. You can see the back of Miss Merry Christmas, and then there is Miss Doublefinger as well, and they're outside the Spider's Cafe. That mountain over there is just about 200 meters tall. Imagine the sea rising that high. It sounds like hell. How many people must have died? Yeah. Next page. Okay, we're back at Water 7. We can tell that because we're seeing Galley Law Company shirts. As for why the sea level rose so much during that century, it would be natural to assume the work of a sudden natural disaster, but I can state for a fact that this was a man-made disaster. Okay. Just confirming what we've all believed. Oh, hey, there's the queen. That's just crazy. Vivi's shutting Morgans up. She is locked in. Vivi is locked in. If such a cataclysm were caused by natural forces, then the initial disaster would have spanned several centuries and inflicted slow but continual damage upon the world. But by any measurement, climatology, geology, environmental, and atmosphere science, this dramatic shift could not have happened within a single century, so the cause is something else. And when I detected the rise in worldwide sea levels the other day, I had an answer. Okay, so referring to the Lucia event. Next page. I knew the cause and confirmed its existence. The ancient weapon that sank the world into the sea 800 years ago still exists today. The moment that they stir once again. In other words, the vast war that arose during the Void Century never came to an end. Okay. The ancient weapons that sank the world into the sea 800 years ago still exist today and await the moment that they stir once again. In other words, the vast war that arose during the 4th century never came to an end. Yeah, we need more information here, because if the war never came to an end, then that means that Emu has been fighting this war continuously. Against who, though? Is Emu fighting against the ancient weapons? Or did Emu use the ancient weapons? Like, this is the way that this is worded is making me like, it's kind of like muddying who is at fault, who, you know, what side everything is on. You know, I'm gonna have to do what I did for the last chapter and just like skip everybody else's dialogue and just pay attention to what Vegapunk is saying again, and do like the Vegapunk reread. But that's the chapter. Okay, so we're continuing the information train here. Ace 2532 supered. Appreciate the vibe. Said Foxy's last appearance ? Chapter 318 on April 19th, 2004. A little over 20 years later, Foxy shows up again. Math piece deniers, take note. I mean, we're a little ways out of that, but you know what? Oda took a month break recently, right? And this chapter would have been written prior to that, so technically, if he didn't take a month break, that would have come out at that time, and that would have been the anniversary. So that's the way to kind of think about that and stretch that out. And then Pats, appreciate the 10, said, unofficial scans translated Ethan's line as sense the living voices, but officials made it bioresponse detected.
Savage.
Could this add weight to the theory that the elders are also satellites? So that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's not the bioresponse detected was said multiple times during the chapter, which was kind of a weird thing, and it sounds like something that you would say if you were, I don't know, like a robot or something. So considering that, you know, we're talking about an ancient kingdom, something like completely advanced, I don't think it's a stretch at all to think that the Gorosei are actually like satellites of Emu, which is something that, you know, has been talked about. You know, they're all named after planets. Is Emu the Earth? And because if Emu is the representation of Earth, then what we have here is like the everyday person is like heliocentric, and, you know, like with the sun god, and, you know, they believe in, you know, in the sun. And then the world government would be like the geocentric view, where like everything is just centered around the Earth, if Emu is supposed to be the representation of Earth. So that would be like one way to kind of think about that, and like show these two opposing forces and views of, you know, two different ideals. Like, okay, we all revolve around the sun, and then, you know, and that's a representation of like kind of, we're getting a little heady here, but you could say like that's selflessness. Like you're not saying that you're the center of the universe, but if Emu were to say like, I am Earth, I am the center of the universe, everything revolves around me, then, you know, we're dealing with, you know, high levels of narcissism, solipsism, and you know, that's where you kind of get just opposing beliefs. So it just, it just kind of adds a deeper layer to, when Luffy and Emu fight, if Luffy is the sun and Emu is the earth. So I do like that. These would be like supremely advanced beings, if all of the Gorosei are like robots or clones of some kind. But I mean, we have Stussy, and like if the Gorosei are just like Stussy on steroids, that's I can vibe with that. I could see that. Vasil Vladivanovici, appreciate the 10, said 11:14, distant view of Emu. 11:15, close up. 11:16, face reveal, maybe. Also 9:05 cover story, courtesy of Twitter. Pre-flood map or random island. All right, let's go to 9:05. Okay, so 9:05 is Orlumbus during the Straw Hat Fleet cover story, and in the back there is a map. And what Vasil is asking is this the pre-flood map? Which could be interesting, because from this you're not seeing the red line. Whereas, like, on the globes of this image, the centerpiece there could be kind of interpreted as the red line. Or this could just be a map of the specific, like, area that Orlumbus is from. And for him to be in command of 5,600 people and everything like that, he probably comes from, like, a very large kingdom. So it would be interesting if we, get a little more information and we can come back to this and be like, hey, look at this. This was during the Reverie and foreshadowed everything. Or, I don't remember where Orlumbus is from, what blue or anything like that. So, like this could be something in the South Blue or the West Blue. Something like that. But that's a cool page, and that's definitely food for thought. Aether Super, appreciate the 2, said, think the water family importance is revealed soon. I mean, with all of this flood stuff, the secret name water should apply. What we need beyond that is we need someone else to be water, because right now, like, we only have Law that is, Trafalgar D water Law, like, who else is a part of the water clan? And then, it's like, it's also crazy that Law is both D and water. So I don't know. But I actually would not mind if Vegapunk did explain the water connection, because he's already talking about everything with water, and then then it's up to Robin to like unveil what the D actually is. That I'm okay with, because obviously I'm more invested in what the D is rather than what water is. I feel like we could get that, and it could tie to this, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. Emil Diaz, my guy, said robots and androids never aging would make sense. Plus, feeding a robot his own fruit is basically giving them life, just like Funk Freed and Smiley. So that's interesting, if we're still on the, the idea that these are Zoans to begin with, which still iffy about, but since it's all supposed to be technology, we're getting into all of the science nitty gritty here. Maybe, yeah. I think it's a good. Good take. A little bit of chair piece, then we're gonna get right back into this. I'll be right back, guys. Like the stream.
Savage.
Okay, we're back. Shout out to Cone Killer Confusor, who Superman said, I hope Oda explains why islands have their own magnetic poles for log pose as if they are their own land masses, now that we know this flood info.
You loyal.
I mean, maybe it ties to Kid and the Jiki Jiki no Mi. So if there was something, highly magnetic, which isn't out of the realm of possibility when we're talking about like all of this science and technology stuff, then I could see a situation where every island was hit by the awakening of a user that had Kid's fruit, and then you see like everything that Kid could do with the fruit that he's not doing, and there's just more Kid slander. And it's interesting that we see Damala Black this chapter portraying Kid, so that's if that is truly like the situation here where we are we find something about Kid's fruit later on, and then we come back like when Vegapunk was talking about this, we saw Damala Black pretending to be Kid. I don't know. Maybe. But the other thing too is that the Earth itself has its own magnetic field, and that magnetic field could be disrupted by the moon as well. So as we learn more things about the moon, that may have a lot to do with it. Like and we know that there's a bunch of moons, based on the globe that Clover had in his office. So it could potentially be a thing where like all of these moons were, just got closer and closer to the Earth and started messing with the magnetic field of Earth and the tide. So then it was like part of what was raising the water was like all these 9 moons or something, if they're supposed to be moons or planets, or if they're representations of the Gorosei, who knows. If it was a thing where there were the moons and then now there's only one moon and that has something to do with all of this as well, then we could start getting into like I don't know the complete science behind all of it, but if you destroyed 8 moons of a planet, I could see that messing with water levels and magnetic fields as well. Now, why it doesn't necessarily affect the blues, that's the question. Like, why is it only in the Grand Line that you need a log pose? Like, why is the magnetic field of that strip and the New World, like that just strip all the way around, like why is that part of it more magnetically charged than the rest? That's the question. Emil, member for 36 months, said, so how do the continent pullers play into this? If I had to guess, if this was a thing where, we had Pangea and then, all of these islands were split, then it might be a thing where Ors and Ors' kind maybe I mean, this would make the thing about continent pulling though. You're either doing two things. You're pulling things away and you're stretching it so that islands are further away, or you're supposed to be stitching them together. And the only real example that we have of things getting stitched together is Wano, because like Ringu is a winter island, and I don't know, one of them is like a fall island and all this stuff. So they all have different climates, which, based on what Vivi told us on the way to Drum, it shouldn't happen. So that's why, like, I totally am like just 100% on board with Wano is a bunch of different islands stitched together. But if we saw more examples of that, then I could say, yeah, okay, well, the island pullers were like connecting allies together. Which, I don't know, maybe Alabasta was, a couple of islands put together, and, now what we see here is that Jaya and Shandora, right? Maybe that wasn't always the case. It wasn't always in the Skull's right eye, but a continent puller moved Shandora to get them. Actually, no. Now I have the theory. The continent pullers moved the islands away from where Emu and the world government knew the islands were, disrupting their maps. So it's like, if they had a map of the world years ago and everything was mapped out, then the continent pullers could have moved all of those islands so that none of their maps worked. And then they have to remap the world, which could take centuries, especially if they kept moving the islands. I like that. I like that a lot. Because if Shandora was originally located somewhere else, and then the continent pullers moved it to Jaya to hide it, there we go.
Someone cooked here.
Sorry, a little slow, little self-glazing there, but I do like that, and it was a request in the chat. Yeah, Chin wanted the button. NACD is saying that Shandora didn't seem to have any leftover ancient tech, though. I think it was simply an ally of the ancient kingdom. I think that Shandora is way more important than we think. And I think that the loss of the ancient technology is... a lot of things change after centuries. Think about what we know of 400 years ago. Not much. There's nothing really recorded. 800 years ago? We have drips and drabs of things. We have, generally speaking, one person or a group account of what happened. And we just kind of have to go for it, but there's no way to really determine it. Like, now we have systems in place to get a little bit more accurate information, but 400 years from now, someone will be twisting, things around. And they'll be saying, like, this person who was really awful is actually a hero, and, someone who was a hero was a villain. The things... The game of telephone over hundreds of years... It's crazy because, no one's around to actually, corroborate any of that information eventually. That's why history books in schools can get away with, covering or not covering certain topics, or glossing over certain topics, or having something in the, the bylines, or, there's just one little paragraph and then the rest of the history book is, about how good everything was. It's like, oh yeah, but things are actually like kind of bad, really bad, for a long time. So, and I feel like that's a big message of One Piece, and why Oda is like doing this whole thing with centuries, like that, and it's something that like I think about a lot, and that's why it's it's fascinating to me. Is just the way things are interpreted, and it's like one of the themes of One Piece is spoken by Doflamingo, like during Marineford. It's just history is told by the winners. So it's like whoever can make the history book, whoever can write the truth, that's what someone's going to believe 100 years from now, 200 years from now. Who's to say someone really existed? We don't know. We don't know. What if Shakespeare never existed? I mean, like, I'm not. That's not like some sort of like tinfoil hat theory. Like that's just something I'm, just like a random thing I'm pulling out of a hat. But no one's alive to say he was or he wasn't. Sword Egg said, Randy, your last theory video was top tier. Thank you. Again, I appreciate everybody. Now that we have more people in here, it is our first theory to reach 100,000 people, and through the use of TikTok as well, 500,000 people. But here on YouTube, it's our first 100K video, so been wanting to do that. Laws and Sword has been out for like, I don't know, 5 years or something, and still isn't at 100,000. It's close though. It's like 97, but still, like, it took 5 years to get there. But we did 100K in 10 days, which is phenomenal. And that's thanks to you guys, like, commenting and liking and all that. Like, it is, I think, the most liked video. I think it's the most commented on video. So I appreciate that. And it's so crazy that that's really the only way to, like, survive in the algorithm. If people don't like or comment, YouTube's like, oh, I guess no one really like this, or it didn't move them, so we're not gonna send this person to other people. So we did it. I said at the end of the video, I was like, I'd like to see this be our first 100K theory, and it was. We did it. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Perpetual Punster said, it says here in the history book that luckily the good guys have won every single time. What are the odds? From Norm MacDonald. Norm was a visionary. There's a lot of people that didn't like his humor, but I'm a Norm MacDonald fan. I like Norm. Especially his movie Dirty Work, which is like completely underrated. Like, is it a good movie? Like, all right, but it's a funny movie. All right, so I'm gonna do a reread of the chapter, but I'm only going to read everything that Vegapunk says, because I want to like really pay attention, and I want to like find the nuance in here. Well, first, Snack D said, honestly, do you have any more spice for Laws and Sword nowadays? Following the Laws and Sword video, the other instances that, kind of corroborate it is, we got more Rocky Port lore. So I have the Rocky Port theory, which kind of like ties into this Laws and Sword theory. So there's elements of that. So you can go and watch that video and you'll see more things there. There's the Kuzan connections to Law are crazy. Also, the last time we saw Law, like the next page is Sengoku. Sengoku and Law are tied together, so whatever Law is going to do next is going to involve Sengoku. So potentially that's where we could find out that he's in Sword, or he ends up helping the Marines based on that. Maybe he's not in Sword now, but after a conversation with Sengoku, his like vision aligns with Sengoku or something. So there's opportunities there. Or Law joins the Cross Guild, or he gets sent to Impel Down. Those are my three avenues for Law. He's either in Sword, he's going to join the Cross Guild, or he's going to get captured in Impel Down and then be the main character of Impel Down 2.0. All right, so the Vegapunk read. But as for why he was called a pirate, I have only read from a handful of poneglyphs, but what I have found there was a record of a breathtakingly vast war. Joy Boy's enemy was the world government of the present day. More accurately, it was the precursor to the world government, a provisional army put together by the 20 kingdoms known as the Alliance. You might say they had no other choice, so robust was Joy Boy's faction. Without knowing the spark that caused the war, I won't say who was right or wrong. I will simply state that two competing ideologies came head to head. As I mentioned earlier, for its time, 900 years ago, the country of Joy Boy's birth was a startlingly advanced civilization, and the weapons that were used over the course of this 100-year conflict appeared to be impossible to recreate with the latest of modern science. And therein lies the problem. The Void Century came to a close with the defeat of Joy Boy, but not before leaving vast permanent scars of war across the face of the world. The world is made up of a series of islands. Sailing between them is difficult, and many people never experience anything but their own culture at home. But this shared understanding of the world does not necessarily apply to the world of 1,000 years ago, because a cataclysm occurred during the Void Century, causing the world to sink once before. We are currently living on the pieces of a continent that existed long ago. The world of a millennium ago now slumbers unseen at the bottom of the sea. In fact, one can assume that in the past there were a number of continents we know nothing about. If the world were still the same as it was in the past, then the act of erasing 100 years of history would be simply unthinkable and impossible. However, it makes much more sense when you understand that the rise in sea level over that century was 200 meters. As for why the sea level rose so much during that century, it would be natural to assume the work of a sudden natural disaster, but I can state for a fact that this was a man-made disaster. If such a cataclysm were caused by natural forces, then the initial disaster would have spanned several centuries and inflicted slow but continual damage upon the world. But by any measurement, climatology, geology, environmental and atmosphere science, this dramatic shift could not have happened within a single century, so the cause is something else. And when I detected the rise in worldwide sea levels the other day, I had my answer. I knew the cause and confirmed its existence. The ancient weapons that sank the world into the sea 800 years ago still exist today and await the moment that they stir once again. In other words, the vast war that arose during the Void Century never came to an end. Okay. So, this could imply that the only way for the war to end is for the ancient weapons to be destroyed. That is my interpretation now after reading this, just the Vegapunk version. We know that Pluton is lying dormant in Wano. Imu may not know that. May not know where Joy Boy hid Pluton. So if it was Emu's idea to turn the entire world into water world, and Joy Boy was able to steal the ancient weapons from Emu, or at least 2 of them, then Emu could be spending all this time trying to get them back. But Emu clearly has access to one of the ancient weapons, Uranus. Maybe. But in that case, I would have expected Emu to like put a hit on Shirahoshi. But then again, Emu did have Shirahoshi's photo. So the photos that Emu had were Luffy, Blackbeard, Vivi, and Shirahoshi. And all of this is crazy. Duran Rostuvia, real question, is Oda a fan of Waterworld? I mean, that movie would have come out like a year before he was starting the pilot of One Piece. So I think Waterworld was like 95. So if you factor in that One Piece came out in 1997, Romance Dawn would have probably like been happening in like 95, 96, as he's trying to like get One Piece published. So it would have been a movie that Oda would have had on his mind as he was creating One Piece. So the $200 million Kevin Costner flop could be one of the greatest inspirations to the best-selling manga of all time. Perk said, right now the Marines are questioning their own government. And that's what Oda has always wanted. I mean, you go back to the beginning of the story. Even if this was a story that was only supposed to last 5 to 7 years, you have Smoker as the person that is questioning his government. He's questioning the Marines. He's, you know, it's an element that has always been there. The first villain that Luffy like really fights is Morgan. Right? What is he? He's a corrupt Marine. So you're already like starting the story off with like, can I trust these guys? But then you have Kobe that's like, I want to be these guys because they're the good guys. All the history books tell me that they're the good guys and I want to be the good guy. And then here's this good man Kobe going into this situation and realizing, this isn't what I expected. So he joins Sword, defects a little bit, kind of on his own, like, hey, look, I want to be the good guy, and the only way for me to be the good guy is to work outside of your parameters, weirdly enough. So yeah, that's the thing. When people try to tell me that One Piece isn't political, or I see that kind of stuff on like Twitter or whatever, I'm just like, all right, fighty fighty punch punch, you got it. They're reading these chapters like, just like, you know what? Let me know when like we're actually fighting, and I'll come back. Summarize this for me, bro. What happened? Oh, the world flooded? Bet. Alright, cool. I don't know. Whatever. There's definitely people reading this chapter and saying, man, but when Ethan sliced that Egghead in half, though? And it's like, did you not see everything else? Like, we are getting the truth of the world. That's what this story is about. You know, I put the first 10 minutes of the Luffy's lineage video on TikTok, and like I opened that video where I'm like, Skypiea is not skippable, and there's like, I don't know, probably hundreds of comments, just people saying like, oh yeah, I skip Skypiea. Yeah, I just summarized that one. Oh, I watched everything of Skypiea except for the Nolan and Calgara flashback. Like, I saw a comment like that. Not necessarily to really like call these people out, but it's just like you're missing so many key elements of the story when you don't see everything to comprehend exactly what is going on here. One Piece is not the it's not a light read. Like, this is there's so much in here that I would hope 200 years from now there is like a class on this, like the way that Shakespeare is taught in school, the way that the Iliad is taught in school. Like, when we get to the end of One Piece, like 200 years from now, they should be like looking at all of this, and it'll be fun because there is fighty punch in there too. But I mean, like, this is something that like it values comprehension, it values attention, it values retention, and I feel like like the amount of time that I put into like thinking about all this stuff, like I feel like it's getting like there's a bit of a payoff when we get chapters like this. So yeah, this is fun stuff, guys. Why would you watch it and not watch the flashback? Well, look, I'm just telling you what I saw in the comments. Like, I don't know if they're trolling or what, but I mean, these are legitimate comments. Sword Egg said, plus there are, you got anime onlys that have never read the cover stories. You got anime onlys and casuals that don't even know the cover stories exist. Because Toei, like, just looked at them and was like, oh yeah, this stuff isn't important. It's important. Shout out to Growth Stocks, appreciate the 10, who said the hidden Den is inside the robot. Oh, that's a good take. That's a good take. I haven't read the whole super chat yet, but I mean, like, he kind of teleported inside the ancient robot a little bit. So if it was in his pocket and then it fell out and went inside the ancient robot, that's good. That's good. I like that. Let me see. In chapter 1066, Vegapunk was inside the robot 24 hours before the incident. The Gorosei can't hear the snail like when Enel couldn't hear Luffy inside Nola the snake. That's solid. That's a good take. I like that.
Savage.
I like that a lot. Someone cooked here.
It's about to get spicy.
Someone cooked here.
The amount of people that really want Dragon to be involved in this would be upset, because it still means that Dragon's not doing anything. Miles said, yeah, when I heard this on Roger's stream, it blew my mind. Den Mushi inside the robot. Cue the Zoolander meme. It's inside the computer? Yeah. That's great. And it's actually a good payoff because it ties into the introduction of the Stella in the first place. So, and The only thing I don't like about it is that it's happenstance, so it doesn't make Vegapunk look smart, even though he's the smartest man in the world. But I can get around it. Like the best case scenario is he is actually routing the snail to a different island and like predicted like some of this stuff, and you know, Batmaned his way into this. So growth stocks, super clever idea. Love it. Also don't love it because it makes Vegapunk stupid. But love it because it ties to something in his introduction though. Brandon King said, Randy, thoughts on the two ideologies Vegapunk mentioned? I think he's talking about the two types of pirates, Peace Mains and Morganeers. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of the story that you could go back to the original Romance Dawn and kind of pull from it and realize that a lot of that is the theme of One Piece, because it's like that was the original concept. Not much has really changed. He pulled things out to kind of hide it, and he's expecting most casuals to have never read it. Most people to have never read it. There's probably some people in the chat that haven't read it. But you know, I always go back to it because one of the most interesting things about it is that Shupil, the villain in it, does not have a devil fruit, but can fly and all of that, and they call him a dark magic user. And you know, we have the Gorosei now, and they have summoning circles and all this other stuff. So from the very beginning, from the pilot of the story, Oda always had it in mind to have people be able to use magic of some kind. So when we start thinking about Magic Piece and stuff that we've talked about on the channel a bit, like it goes back to that original pilot that Oda did. And you know, don't be surprised as you know, we start getting into the end game of the story, we start seeing more things that we can't really comprehend, that don't fall into the parameters of all of this technology stuff, which is why I'm not completely sold on the idea of the Gorosei having devil fruits, because of the Romance Dawn pilot, because of the concept of dark magic, which opens us to the idea and the concept that there can be actual yokai in this world, potentially, allegedly. Chin spitting, Miss Golden Week, magic piece, right? What she is using is a dark magic, like it is a hypnosis. It is not a devil fruit. So what Django does is not a devil fruit. There's what Paulie does is not a devil fruit. And you know, what do magicians often use? Rope. You know, like that might be a stretch, but at the same time it kind of like lines up. Shio, their name boxes also didn't list devil fruits. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like I've talked about that. They had the Wano style devil fruits boxes, the Oda boxes from Wano, but there was no devil fruit. It was just the yokai. So that's why I'm not sold that they have devil fruits. Goes back to Romance Dawn. And I'm not talking about Volume 1. I'm talking about Romance Dawn when it wasn't even One Piece. Oda was going to call the whole thing Romance Dawn. So there's that. And then it's also interesting that the proto-Nami in that was called Anne, which is clearly a reference to Anne Bonny. And then now Bonny is finally becoming important in the story. And if Ace was a girl, Portgas de Rouge said, name her Anne. And Ace has the same birthday as Oda. So it's like it's all kind of going back to the origin of the idea. Like this is the way that I think Oda's brain is like operating for all of this. That's interesting. Andy Dalif said, I still like the thought that Zunisha is an island that ate the mythical giant elephant fruit. They introduced the sword elephant at the same time, so there's a similarity there. That's interesting. I actually haven't heard that, or if I did, I forgot about it. I just, at the same time, it's like, if it is a devil fruit, then like Zunisha's legs literally have to be that one drawing where it's just, they just have these giant legs. Because otherwise they would sink because they have a devil fruit. And then that goes back to the, you know, things that we were talking about with Luffy's awakening, the awakening of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, and it's just like, does it have the ability to permanently stretch things? So it's like, was Zunisha's legs altered by Joy Boy using the fruit? So they do have these long legs because they have a devil fruit, and it was like, I want to make sure that, you know, you don't drown because you're my friend, so I'm going to make your legs longer. It's weird. You know, we're getting in the weeds, but... Yeah, the Salvador Dali one, Diza. Yep. Saeed going back to the Poly thing, and mantra is written as mind rope. Coincidence? He literally is like mind roping. Like that, like one of the craziest things in the story, like that I'm just like, okay, we're taking things a little too far. Like, one is always going to be Porcus de Rouge, like holding Ace in her stomach for like 21 months or whatever it is, 20 months, 16 months, I can't remember. I don't bother to remember that because I do not like that part of the story. I think that's where Oda actually messed up his timeline and then had to kind of correct it. But the other thing, one of the other things, is when Paulie saves everybody with all of this rope at the end of Ennie's lobby, and it's just like, dude, how do you not have a devil fruit? And where were you hiding all of this rope? Like, you saved everyone, dude. Like, there is so much rope here. like you want to talk about stretches? Like, I remember when that chapter came out, and I was just like, he doesn't have a devil fruit? Like, how? What are we doing here? What am I reading? Oh, man. I don't know. Am I the only one that was like, that thinks about that? Or have other people had the same thought as me? Like, Brandon King said, tell me Wanze doesn't have the noodle no me. He was whipping noodles. See, there we go. Like, I talk about this too. Bishna said, dude, it always comes back to Papagu for me. Guy is literally just a starfish that misheard someone so hard that he became sentient. But that actually ties into everything that we learned in this arc, though. And I've gone back to that exact quote, because it's like, everything in this world we owe to desire, right? So, will, what you believe you can create. Bonnie is able to just believe she can be a giant, so she becomes a giant. If you can believe it, you can do it, which I think is really the underlying theme of One Piece. Like, go after your dreams, you can do it. You just have to, like, you know, go super hard. And here, like, that is just the most extreme version of it in the story outside of, like, what Bonnie just did, because that is actually really extreme. But it's also Papagu wanting to be sentient made him sentient. Wild. So Paulie wanting to save everyone made his rope do what it did in Eddie's lobby, I guess. Three-day trip said, nah, it was a lot of rope. Yeah, like, I think he saved Oimo and Kashi too. Like, how? Ow, bro. Andy Dallas said, Dawn Till Dusk has an interesting theory on Nami being from the past and sent to this timeline. I've never heard this. This is why she got sick on Little Garden and can sense the weather so well. So I feel like there's probably a bunch of more reasons to all of this, but I don't think that Nami's from the past. I mean, I see that they're trying to find a connection to why she was on Oikyat and all that. But I do want to know about Nami's lineage. I am of the belief that every single person on the crew is special in their own right and does have ties to, you know, people on Joy Boy's crew, anything like that. Like, this is the, you know, the second coming of, you know, greatness here. But Nami, I think, has a predisposition to observation hockey that she cannot fully control, and I think that it's just finely tuned to the weather. Like, when she is able to detect that typhoon while she's sick on the way to Drum, like, that's crazy. Like, you've got hockey. Like, that's a hockey feat to me. That's mantra, you know. As for her getting sick and that tying to being from the past, I mean, are you trying to say that over 1,000 years, like, the bodies had developed a predisposition to not contracting Kestia? I think it's just a prehistoric bug bitter. And I mean, you can go back to the you can actually see the panel where she's like, ow. It's like, it's just a throwaway panel, but you can see, like, she got hit. So that is a huge stretch of a theory. I don't believe in that one, but I do believe that Nami is important. Brandon said tinfoil. I've heard this before, and I'm not a big fan of it, but it would, I guess, make things work. Porcus de Rouge had the Nika fruit before Luffy, and that's how she was able to keep Ace in for so long. Yeah, maybe. I still don't like it. Miles said Charlotte Nami. That was my big theory after Thriller Bark. That Lola and her were actual sisters. And, you know, she just got lost. And then when we got to Whole Cake, we were going to discover that, you know, the reason why the Vera card she had even works for her or anything is because she's also from the Charlotte bloodline. But instead, what we got was Sanji was important and was actually a prince. 3-Day Trip said it's like Nami has a specialized hockey. Yeah. Random said, I always liked Charlotte Nami, but nothing came of it. Yeah, and I still think it would have been cool. And I think it would have added way more layers, like even in Wano as well, you know, with how much interaction she had with Big Mom and everything with Tama and all that. You would have, like, you know, this whole layer of, like, motherhood. You would have Nami denouncing Big Mom, like, it would be, I mean, it would be retreading the Judge stuff where it'd be like, I have a mom, you know, I had a mom, it's not you, while she's, like, being a faux mom to Tama. There's layers that could have happened and would have been cool, but Miles said, all I'm saying is Charlotte Nami isn't dead yet. I mean, technically not. Technically not, sure. We could meet Nami's real father, and it was just like, yeah, I had a relationship with Big Mom. Like, that could happen. Like, Oda could do that. And then we all reread Whole Cake Island, and it's like, it was all here. Thriller Bark, it was all here. She's calling Lola her sister in Thriller Bark. Like, it was set up. No. I don't see it actually happening now, but it could. It could. So I'll make the video of the truth of Nami's lineage. She's a Charlotte. I'll double down on it after all this time. YC said, nah, Rouge holding Ace for so long worked for me. It was insane, but at the same time, a lot of crazy things happened in the story, and that was just an unusual way to show that. Yeah, but the other thing that bothers me about it is that Oda did not intend for Ace to be Roger's son until, like, right before he started the Marineford Saga. Like, that was an editor that offered that. So when he had already established how old Ace was, and established where Roger was, you know, when he was killed, Oda, like, that is the plot hole that he created. So he had to basically say, like, no, she was held for these many months to keep the timeline that he had already created in track, and it's on track, and it's up to him to, you know, find a justification for that later on. So I'm glad that it worked for you, but it is a plot hole that he had to come up with a really ridiculous reasoning for it to work. And it's not a bad idea to have Ace be Roger's son. Like, there's thematic, you know, ways that it works, and, you know, you go to ASL and there's, you know, there's layers to it, and I like it. But it just would have been better if, you know, at the start he said Ace was 22 or something, and then it would have been fine. Well, I guess, but then you have to justify Ace being born while Roger was alive. So, I don't know. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. I'm done. Yeah. Damien said, congrats on 100k for the video. We did it. Thanks, everybody. Like the stream. Rouge having the Joy Boy fruit. Yes, it is still possible. Yeah. Alright. So, I'm going to take another look at the chapter here. I think I'll start winding the stream down. Is there anything really interesting that people have been talking about this week about this? Because while I love this chapter, and, you know, I love that we saw Damalo Black, and I love that we saw Foxy, like, weirdly enough, like, we're getting a bunch of information, but I also don't feel like we got too much to where we can, you know, put enough of it together yet. It's a lot of, like, Vegapunk beating around the bush here. Nakdi said the deep sea panel looks like Impel Down. Good point. Yep. Like, the first time we saw Impel Down, we did see it was drawn exactly the same way, and, you know, with fish swimming around it. And we did talk about Impel Down potentially having been above ground and then now is below ground because of the sinking. And if the world sank 200 meters, then, you know, that would be, you know, the height of Impel Down. So that works. So that's kind of like a little bit of a...
And another one.
The Noah was to save the fishermen from the flood and ensuing currents, but probably not only the fishermen, a lot of people. So the thing that I still want to see is that Joy Boy was not human. Now, that's not to say, like, he could be a continent puller, he could be a mink, he could be a snake, He could be an allegory for and a parallel to Chopper. Like, he was an animal that ate the Nika fruit, the Hito no Mi, model Nika, and then, you know, became sentient from that, and was fighting a battle for humans when he wasn't really actually human himself. That's something that, like, feels right to me, and we've been talking about that for over 2 years now. So I don't care what race he was. I don't want him to be human. And if he was a mink also, then it would explain why minks are able to turn white and get red eyes like the Nika form. If he was a mink, and then it was, you know, like, his lineage factor was spread down over 100 years, 800 years, and then they all, when they look at the moon, which is reflected sunlight, then they kind of get a fraction of Joy Boy's power. But Joy Boy could have also been a giant. He could have been a buccaneer. I just don't think that he was just a normal human like Luffy. And even at that rate, Luffy might not be a normal human. Duran Rostuvia said people are wondering if that place underwater is below Egghead, or if it's somewhere we know. Could be under Annie's lobby. Like, it would be really interesting to me, like, if all that remains of Ennie's lobby was part of, like, the Ancient Kingdom or a different kingdom, and then when we see what is underground or underneath Ennie's lobby, it's literally just, like, the other part of the island. Kind of like Shandora being shot up into the sky. And if we just, like, lifted all of it, it would all create one island for Annie's lobby and would fill the water gap. Joy Boy was a humandrel. That's wild. Cobalt said if Joy Boy was a monkey mink, that could tie into some Wukong connections. And Monkey D and Luffy's name. Yeah. Yeah. I think we've talked about that as well. You know, if he was a mink, he would have to be a monkey mink for sure. And then it would just literally be Sun Wukong. And then we would understand why the minks can transform into Nika, and why and then I still believe that the Tamate Bako pills were created to was a technology to give you a fraction of Nika's power, and Hody abused it, and that's why he's also turned old like Luffy does. So it's all connected. And, you know, you got to factor in, like, we're also seeing Zoe this chapter. We're seeing the minks this chapter. Like, it's... We got our first silhouette of... Oh. Look at this, right? Our first silhouette of Joy Boy. What's the next thing we see? Zoe and the minks. So, I think that's... Yeah. Yeah, I think Joy Boy was a mink at this point. You can't just go from the silhouette of Nika, of Joy Boy to the minks without trying to tell me that you're subconsciously trying to tell me that Joy Boy was a mink. That's it. It's Sun Wukong. Over and done with. We figured it out. Yeah, and look at this. You zoom in on the silhouette. Boom, you got a tail. Joy Boy had a tail. It's a mink. It's a monkey mink. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Everybody go home. We did it. We did it. He's got a tail. I just zoomed in on the silhouette. He's got a tail. Ryro said, might just be a sash. Hey now. Maybe Luffy's sash is there in the first place to represent Joy Boy's tail. How about that? Volkazard said, I don't see it. When you go to the panel of the silhouette of Joy Boy on page 5, he's got his awakening deity flame up here, but then off to the side is a curled tail. It's a wrap, over and done with. Then we go to Zoe right after that, and then to the minks. And I've been tying this fruit and Joy Boy to the minks since we had Sun God Nika revealed in the first place. Because it's when Luffy goes into his Nika form, he's just going Sulong. Like, that's it. It's over and done with. He's going Sulong. Panda Man said, I think it's the end of the Cloud Veil. Maybe. Maybe. It's possible. But I'm just saying, if he was a monkey mink, then it ties into everything that Oda's been doing with Sun Wukong, and we get an explanation for the Sulong form and why it resembles Gear 5. And then, I previously said that, among the like, even in the Joy Boy was a snake video, like that whole video is just Joy Boy wasn't human. So it's like he could have been a snake because there's all the snake imagery. I said he could have been a mink to tie into everything with the Sulong form. Could have been a giant. Said a bunch of stuff in that video. I even said a bunch of stuff that I put into the Luffy's lineage video, and just kind of repackaged it. And something else. I feel like I'm missing a big one. But either way, I really like the idea of it being a mink right now. Dawn Night 1993 said, Randy said it's time to go home, and an ad started playing for me right then and there, and I really thought he ended the stream. But at the end of the day, hey, Oda wants us to have these discussions, so shout out to Wolf D Whiskey for joining the channel.
Together we're stronger.
Stronger together.
Another one. Together we're stronger.
Miles said, it's why I think Roger's too soon bit is about the water levels needing to be higher to get the One Piece. We had Kureha pointing out a 200 meter mountain peak this chapter as well. Was it Kureha? I thought that was during the Baroque Works part that that we saw the mountain peak getting pointed out. Yeah, it's in the Baroque work section. So Miss Merry Christmas is pointing out the 200-meter mountain peak. Yeah, it's all good, Miles. Don't worry. Yeah, there we go. So 3-day trip. So Nika was a snake, sun god. Joy Boy was a monkey mink. Luffy, human. Shandian, potentially. In the Nolan flashback, the girl said she was going to see the sun god, then the snake showed up. Yeah. 3-day, did you watch the latest theory about Luffy's lineage going into all of that? Because you're going to see a lot of what you're talking about there. So, with that being said, yes. Joy Boy, I think that he was a monkey mink. It's very possible that the original Nika was a sun god, right? This goes back to the Joy Boy was a snake theory because it's not actually, it's more that Nika was potentially a snake. Because there's so much snake imagery, we're eventually going to get into the creation story. Either Emu is a snake or Nika was a snake. Because when they are praying to the sun god, they are praying to Kashi, the snake. And I feel like that's just the game of telephone that we were talking about earlier in the stream. And this may also tie back to Kaido's fruit and why it was like so sought after, because if Nika was a blue snake that was able to, turn into a white warrior or something, then you have Joy Boy that may know that or something. But either way, 400 years ago, the Shandians were praying to a blue snake that they believed was the sun god. So at some point, 400 years before that, there had to have been some sort of blue snake that was representative of the sun god. Some sort of reasoning why they thought a blue snake was that. And if you think of Kaido, Kaido was a blue dragon. And Azure dragon, so it's like kind of a snake. So I feel like somewhere along the lines, maybe something needs to come together and a game of telephone happened, and that's why Kaido thought he was Joy Boy, because he was a blue snake. So I don't know, we just need clarification. But and then we got Snake Man now. Emil said, I want to see Rayleigh's reaction to the Vegapunk message. Yeah, he's just like sipping something next to Shaki, and it's just like, he's kind of close. He's almost there. Yeah. Thanks, 3-day. Later, DK. I'm going to be wrapping the stream up here anyway. A rubbery, bendy snake, yeah. Which also ties to Norse mythology, because the Jormungandr was a snake that could wrap itself around the world. So, if a snake had the Nika fruit, in theory, it could keep stretching itself so that it, went around the world. It's like the red line could be that gigantic snake, just like fossilized or wrapped itself around the world and then got turned into rock or something. I don't know. Yep. Perpetual Punster in with the pun. So, if you sound out snake in like Romaji and all that, you would say Sunaku. So S-U-N Sun Eku, which that could also be the perpetual pun that Oda's, doing. They were calling the Suneku the sun god because it's the oh my god. Yeah. It could just be that. It could just be that. Yeah. Chen said someone with Bo's fruit petrifies the red line snake. Yep. And then over 800 years, the sun bleaches it red. Maybe. Or it rusts. I don't know. Either way, guys, that's going to wrap things up for me. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get a video out for this one. It's definitely not going to be tomorrow. Hopefully Tuesday, if not Wednesday. So look out for that, just because I'm busy the next 2 days. But I'm glad we were able to share this this stream together. Thank you again, guys, for all the likes, all the comments, all the engagement. If you don't mind, please keep it up so that the algorithm doesn't think that I dropped off. And then it's, it's like we had a big hit, and then it's like, in order to continue that trend, we have to like keep that up. So I know I'm asking a lot. I'm sorry. I love our crew. And then I'll be working on more bigger videos as well, because clearly that is what people want. Wolf D Whiskey, supered. Appreciate it. Thanks for the 10. And said, did you notice Miss Golden Week had an apple on her head? What if she was a Baroque Works spy from Vegapunk, and Vegapunk has spies hidden in different factions to keep up with stuff? If you go back to the Baroque Works cover story, you will see that Miss Golden Week is actually pretty... all of these characters are actually kind of wearing the same exact thing they wore at the end of the cover story. So this is just Golden Week kind of living her best life. But there is a weird connection here with her and Vegapunk that is worth more of a look. I don't have an angle on it now, but it's interesting. Miss Merry Christmas is still in the flowy dress that she was in at the end of it, and Miss Doublefinger is just they're like Paula getup. But it's a good point to connect that to Vegapunk, though. Yeah. Let's see here. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the thanks for all the messages there. Emil said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You're saying Miss Golden Week is Vegapunk's daughter? I mean, that's wild. Guess I'd be okay with it. We already got the Vegapunk connections with Lasso, yeah. So it's like maybe that connection wasn't through Crocodile, it was through Mrs. Golden Week. Is that why she had like one of the highest bounties on Baroque Works? Like she had a 29 million bounty, which was higher than Mr. 3 and like a lot of members of Baroque Works. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for the the last minute supers and everything, but I am gonna run, and I'll see everybody soon. Like, comment, subscribe. If you are feeling the vibe.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.